And today's guest on Touchline Talk by Soccerspective is Paul Dreisbach. Paul is a former teammate of mine in college, and Paul has gone on to an incredible, diverse and vast career in the world's global game. He has international and business development, influence, and sports leadership experience, all tied to passion for sustainability and impact within the world's great game of football. He helped start Petrichor Football Association in 2017 with his former teammate, Jordan Cohn. Petrichor is an organization in Cameroon that builds capacity, framework, and models of sustainable growth and leadership development through football. It has become the largest girls' development initiative in the country of Cameroon. They also launched an initiative with their Petrichor team developed with LaLiga. It is a league for young girls that focuses on safe play, character, and leadership lessons in women's coaching development. After the pilot in early 2022, it has grown over 200% with strategic movement towards scale. The project blends active lifestyles with club development, gender equality, and social impact, all through the platform of sport. Paul was part of a panel during the successful launch of the World Football Summit in South Africa. He has continued on to speak at events, panels, and podcasts like this one. His aim is to leverage his global sporting network and visibility for good so that the sport can continue to have an influence in the world. Some of his partner and friends that he's worked alongside of are LaLiga, Liverpool in SoCal, World Football Summit, the Portland Timbers, the Portland Thorns, Nike, Adidas, On Running, Real Sociedad, and VfL Wolfsburg. He holds a sports management degree. He did some postgraduate work with football business from Johann Cruyff and a business sustainability certificate from the Harvard Business School. You can find out more about Paul Dreisbach at his website, Paul Dreisbach, DREISBACH.co. And this episode of Touchline Talk is brought to you by our sponsors, Equipt Studios. And we've got an exciting giveaway in partnership with Equipt Studios. To be eligible, you need to subscribe to the Soccerspective YouTube channel and comment the word Equipt, EQUIPT. Equipt Studios is an independent creative agency that outfits both amateur and professional soccer teams, from soccer logos that rival the pros to custom jerseys that tell your team's stories. They bring high-level design and deep passion for the game to every single project. So whether it's the jersey top, the shorts, the socks, they do it all. Equipt Studios creates beautiful badges for the beautiful game and full kits built from the ground up with authenticity and style. Check them out at equiptstudios.com and take your team's identity to the next level. Like this USL League 2 kit that they put together for the West Seattle Junction FC that you can see featured in the USL League 2. And we've got an exciting giveaway over the next couple weeks in partnership with Equipt Studios. And to be eligible, you need to subscribe to the Soccerspective YouTube channel and comment the word Equipt, EQUIPT. And that's equiptstudios.com, EQUIPT studios.com. All right, let's welcome our guest, Paul Dreisbach, to the show. Paul and I used to be college teammates for a year and have stayed friends off and on throughout, connecting as we go through, especially Paulie as he travels all around the world making a difference and stuff. But Paulie, if you could change one rule in football, what would it be? So it doesn't matter what age, competition level, what's something that you would change?
Yeah, wow. I think there's so many options and fun things. I was just thinking about this now. I think it would be interesting to give teams an option to do a set piece from, instead of a throw-in, maybe they get like 5 a game. Instead of a throw-in, they can choose they're going to kick it in, or they can like place it in a certain area of the field. Like once a game, they can choose their set piece.
I love it.
And give up a throw-in. I don't know, just changing up something like that so you can get creative with when you want to change something.
Especially if you're like pushing for something at the end of a match and you've got like 2 or 3 of those available, like that could be a huge difference. Because a lot of times people, they're under pressure a little bit. They're going to time waste. They're going to kick it out of bounds for a throw in. And now it's like, if you kick it out, it's kind of worth almost like a corner kick, right? Which is brilliant.
Yeah. You could like go place it somewhere outside of the 18 or something. I don't know. Just like make it kind of fun where there's a bit more pressure on both sides to like play well and play smart. Cause they might take their their extra free kick. I don't know, just something fun like that I think would be interesting.
I love that. I love that. Paul, how did you first get involved and first get exposed to football as a kid growing up? What did that look like for you?
Yeah. Oh man, I try to think of when it actually all first kind of started. So I grew up in the Philippines. Actually, my parents did like missions work and some nonprofit work. So growing up overseas, I remember using sport and like seeing how sport connects people so quickly. And as a kid, that always struck me. I was like, wow, this is awesome. I can just make friends with anyone playing basketball or football or whatever it is. It didn't matter where you're from, what language you speak, how good you even were. It was just like, let's just play and have a good time. So as a kid, I always knew like, wow, there's something special about this, and the ability to connect with people so quickly through a common space was powerful. So I knew that was going to be part of my life to some extent. Understanding more of that as I grew up, obviously, helped. But yeah, it all started in the streets of the Philippines, man, just kicking a ball around or playing basketball or whatever it might be.
What did that look like through your years? I think that, the game has come a long way in America in terms of like, the development of, club soccer, travel teams, coaching, all those kinds of things. What did that look like over there, at different age levels for you, like those maybe elementary type age to middle school, high school type years? Was it loosely organized? Was it like an organized system that you might see like in Europe or things like that?
Yeah,
What was that like?
not really. I mean, the Philippines is not a footballing country per se. It's definitely grown a lot over the past few years. Them investing in their development and structures and pathways and such, but it's not traditionally known to be a footballing country. So it was a bit difficult, I would say. Like I grew up within an international school setting, and then would just play whenever I got the chance. Honestly, I don't know like why I maybe loved it so much, maybe than other sports, but it was just that was it. It was always football. So mainly it was just through the international school programs. So the teams, the clinics, things like that. As I got a bit older, like into middle school, high school, I would travel a bit. So we had some yearly trips to like Thailand and maybe Japan. I mean, this sounds crazy. It's close to the Philippines, so it was kind of a regional trip. But we would go play other international schools and clubs. And I played a few years of club football in Manila as well. So in high school, I was playing for my team, and then also a club in the city. So yeah. So I mean, it's not that organized there. There's definitely a lot of like kind of rec level stuff, but it's
Yeah.
it's still developing.
But people, I mean, when I met you, my freshman year of college, I would have never known that. Like, you know what I mean? Like in terms of how you played, like the quality of play, all that stuff. It's like you were a solid player. Like not to make you, build up your ego or anything, but
Yeah,
like you
I
were a good
mean,
player.
I feel like I could have gotten a lot better if I grew up in a different situation, but I think that was mainly because I grew up in that international school setting. So I was playing with kids from England, Australia, Germany, Japan, Korea. Like it was such a international team. I think
Yeah.
it kind of forced you to learn to play well, and if you paid attention, you could learn a lot from all of the other styles.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely helped. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know what would have happened without that, but for sure, the international school kind of setting helped for sure.
Yeah. What was one of your favorite memories from either your playing days or times working with other players? What's kind of been something that stuck out to you over the last now several, a few decades now of you being involved in the game?
Yeah, I mean, up till now, I mean, that's saying a lot. Like, not taking that just high school age, but in total, man, there's so many. Um, I'll share two kind of quick ones. These came a bit later. we were living in France and I played for a local club there. And it was interesting because football is obviously huge in France and in Europe, but it's actually really difficult to like join a club. This sounds
Mm.
strange, but I mean, there's clubs everywhere. At every local town has a club, um, and there's a field and everything. But it's like, how do you actually join? There's no like open trials. There's no. It's a very strange
Mm.
business. It's very closed, in some ways. So we finally like met someone who had played it for one of the youth levels at some point, and they introduced us to the coach. All this thing. Finally went out. And this is hilarious because like this is so embarrassing. I had a good friend of mine in France drop me off at practice because he knew French. I didn't know any French. This is like a week in France, zero
Yeah.
French. And he drops me off at the field like he's my dad or something. Like he's like, okay, this is Paul. He's American. He wants to try out for the team. Can he train with you guys for a couple times? If he's good enough, you guys can talk. And I'm like, all right, don't leave. I might need you. Like it was so embarrassing, but hilarious. And they like the team didn't know any English, so long story short, I made it and it was fine. It was a great year of playing there for me. But like after the second practice, my buddy was like, "All right, man, you're on your own. Forget it. You can figure this out." And jumped into French, and honestly, that helped spark what we did later, in Cameroon with French and football. But
Mm.
that story was interesting because it went from like not knowing how to even get to the club. Once I was on the team, instantly like friends and family for life with everyone
That's
on that
awesome.
club.
Love that.
There's like an immediate inclusion, and it's not like done lightly. Like I still talk to guys 10, 15 years later, like they're doing crazy stuff in the world from that 1 year at a low level in France. So like the connection so quickly and for life was surprise. I mean, even Becca, like the first game, they like threw Becca in the clubhouse and like, you're pouring beers for the team after the game. And
That's
she's like,
awesome.
what? I don't know. Like,
That's
but
awesome.
they just,
I love that.
it was family from then on. So that was a powerful thing. And I think the second, I mean, there's so many from Cameroon. Our years in Cameroon in football development, like there's a moment. This goes into like development stuff and
Hmm.
nonprofit strategy and stuff. But like over the years of being there, we got to know these kids growing up and their families. And one of my trips there, usually what would happen is I would show up and be like, "Oh, cool, like Coach Paul, whatever. How's it going?" I'd talk to families, the kids. And they'd run up and give us a hug or a high five. This one trip, they they like saw me, ran up and like kind of gave me a high five. They're like, "Oh, hey, cool, how's it going?" But like ran right past me to our like Cameroonian president, like our manager in Cameroon, who's Cameroonian, and they were just like, "All right, you're old news, Paul. Like, we like this guy now." I'm like, that for me was like a sign that this is working. Like, you shouldn't like. I
Mm.
love hanging out with the kids and the families, but like
Yeah.
for them to, um, you know, want to be a part of an organization that's led by someone like them and not be
Mm.
like enamored by or like, oh, these like white founders or whatever. Like, I'm like, can we get out of the way as fast as possible? Like, I don't like this. It's weird. I
Yeah.
loved it that our kids and the organization was now like leaning more towards um, local role models. That was a special moment, and it's maybe countercultural because I think there's a lot of like ego in this space, and people like want it
Hmm.
to be about them. And I'm thankful. I have lots of problems, but like ego in my organization is not one of them. Like as fast as I can
Yeah.
get out of here
Yeah.
responsibly, that's what I want to do. So that was a special moment for me.
I love that. That's really good. Paul, how did who were some of those influences? You mentioned kind of the international school you were part of, but who have been some of the biggest influences in football for you growing up? And then kind of now as this has become such a significant part of your career path and the different kind of
Mhm.
strands of how, and we're going to get into that, some of the different strands of what that has looked like. Who have been some of those biggest influences for you?
Yeah, man, it's a good question. There's been a lot of different people. I think it would probably be important to list them out and just say thanks too as I'm thinking about this. But I think coaches over the years have been um, good influences in some ways and some not. But there have been a few coaches. One of my high school coaches was um, maybe a bit more serious, but like you could tell he didn't put up with like mediocrity. Like
Hmm.
if you weren't giving everything, like what are you doing here? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not just like physically or running around the whole game. Like it's being
Right.
smart. Like if you're not giving
Right.
everything mentally, you know,
Right.
and I liked that. That always stuck with me. Um, I think my dad was always a big um, influence for me of just like
Mm.
that quiet professionalism. Like my dad was a very quiet guy, but like when he did talk, like you wanted to listen. You're like, oh, I'm going to learn something
Mm.
here. So he played a little bit growing up, but he just had that level of like quiet professionalism, like just do things with quality, humility, do the hard work. It doesn't matter who's seeing it. Like you're not doing it for them, you know, you're
Yeah.
improving yourself. And that always stuck with me. And that kind of goes into a future, more recent one, but like I always appreciated Carlo Ancelotti, like a famous coach. And some of those qualities overlap, like that quiet professionalism. He doesn't get bothered
Mm.
much, doesn't talk much, but you can tell he like commands respect. The club, the
Mm.
players, the community respects and loves him, and he doesn't have to yell to prove it. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate that level of, um, that culture that comes from that type of leadership. Um, yeah, those are a few I would say. I mean,
Mm.
there's so many people that have been a part of
Yeah.
this journey that I could probably name. Um, a good friend of mine from LaLiga, Treasure, who we started this big project in Cameroon together, and now South Africa. But over the years, grinding through building programs in difficult places, um, and reminding each other like quality and consistency
Hmm.
is what builds success, and you just keep going, and other people are going to be giving up, and they do, but you're going to keep
Yeah.
going, and just stay consistent, do it with quality, um, and you'll win. So I, like I said, there's so many more, but those are a few
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah. I think what's been fun on this side of these conversations is everyone's path is really different in the game. And I
Mm-hmm.
know, I even think back, as I look at, your life, like we really were only in each other's lives for like a year and a half, really. Like
Mm-hmm.
same
Yeah.
team around each other. I'd come back and visit a little bit, whatever. But then we had a touch point where I saw you when I was in Michigan, for like a day. And then after that, it's kind of like seeing what you're doing on social media and then, reconnecting here recently. But it's like some of it, knowing how you grew up and then seeing what you're doing now, you're like, it kind of makes sense. Like it kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
This guy with this incredible international experience, great soccer player, great mind around the game. But then going from, I think sometimes people think the path is always just like, you know, crazy levels and amounts of coaching. And then maybe someday you could do some of the influential things that you're doing in different countries, right? So talk to
Yeah.
us a little bit about what are you currently involved with in football? Tell us about Petrichor. Tell us about the other things that you're doing now. And this
Mm-hmm.
is where I love this conversation because, there is this like social impact side. There is this releasing leaders within the game in different contexts. And then there's this side that you've kind of carved a unique path out for yourself. And you're just kind of a gritty, make it happen kind of guy, anyways. But share that journey with us. What did it look like post playing days in college here in America to then your involvement with the game and kind of leading to what you're all involved with now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple different ways here. Yeah, I think as you grow and as you work in the game or around sport, I mean, just in life in general, really, your eyes are a bit more open to where the gaps are, where you can potentially add value, and what you even want to do, and how you can give back. I think for me, kind of after university, Becca and I were in town for a while, and I was just doing like business development. I wasn't working in sport necessarily. I did coach a bit at Grace, kind of off and on a little bit, and then we started our own little club. I don't know if you remember. I just thought of it now. This Winona FC. We had this like little,
Yeah.
like basically kind of an unofficial adult team because there wasn't anywhere to play,
Yeah.
and we ended up like getting uh, alumni from Grace and other universities and just kind of random guys in the community that wanted to play. And we made up our own league. Like we scheduled friendlies against university clubs in the whole area. So like basically continued the Grace season with some. And we ended up playing we played Valparaiso. I think they're Division One. Like we
Yeah.
played like lots of different clubs, and it was so fun. Like it was such a fun thing to create and be a part of, and essentially like that was my first. Now looking back on it, like managed a small football club. Like we found sponsors, we did the
Yeah.
whole thing. It was hilarious. I still have my jersey.
That's
um,
awesome.
so that was a fun thing just in town. But like I'm trying to think, like when we were in France playing there, I think that like that really opened my eyes up to the connection to the game because for so long European football or global football seemed so far away. It's
Mm.
like how could I ever be a part of that? Like that's such a high level. It's a whole different thing. Like that's so unreachable. Um, and it kind of is in some ways, I guess, depending on how you want to get involved in it. But being there and then being in it really made me realize, like, oh, like I see how this works a little bit now. Like, I can see the different avenues into this space, and not as a player, like more of like managing, leadership, development, all that stuff. Um, so when we were back in the States, I really started thinking through it at that point. Like, okay, how do I want to further my education? How do I want to get into the game? What do I want to do here? And then shortly after that is when um, we started Petrichor. So another good friend of ours who, like Jordan Cohn, we played together as well. Or you might have played with him. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. He was hurt a lot of that season, but we played a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we became really close friends in school. And at this point now, this is many years later, he moved back to Cameroon with his family to work at an international school. Um, and he was coaching for I was Division 2 or Division 1 women's club in Cameroon, just to stay connected to the game. And he had done more of his coaching licenses. He was more going down that route. So he was staying in it for a few reasons. But um, yeah, I mean, this was probably 2013 or 14, somewhere around there. He gave me a call and was like, hey, let's think through something. Like a few of our local coaches and community leaders have asked me to help them build a bit of a structure around some pathways, some coaches education, some structure around youth development, equality in the game,
Mm.
and wondered if I would help them lay out a bit of strategy around it, at least in that little corner of Cameroon. And he's like, hey,
Yeah.
do you want to help build something? At least the basic structure of it. And I was like, sure, that sounds cool to help out a little bit with what we knew so far. And Jordan and I had both been like around the world, doing soccer camps in the past. So this was like a fun next step to do something a bit more official. Again, we didn't know like a month, a year, 10 years, like what this would be. And we were just like, all right, we can create something here. And so we worked with our colleagues there in Cameroon to come up with Petrichor, which is um, essentially a capacity building organization. So we're an association where local clubs and academies are a part of our association as a member. Um, and with that, we really walk alongside them almost like a mentorship where we help identify where the gaps are, what they need, what their goals are, and then we do our best to, help them reach their goals. So, I mean, the talent, the potential, the resources in a lot of ways, like everything's already there. Like these community
Mm.
leaders and coaches are amazing. There's just a few of the little gaps where we come in and we can bring in, coaching curriculum or child protection stuff or help on technical side of club licensing, or how do you register players and that type of thing, depending on what the club needs. So essentially, like, that was it kind of at the beginning. Like, let's just create a bit of a structure where the ecosystem in general can build together. And we did this model on purpose. And this is a whole different conversation, but I'll touch on it lightly. The difference between an association and an academy. So most people will just start an academy where they go find the best players, they work with a select group, and then move them through as fast as possible, really. Where the highest value is inside the academy walls for a few select people, which is like, that's fine. It's not like knocking anyone's model. Like, that, if that's what people want to do. We just knew, whether this lasted a month or 10 years, like, we wanted our part of this to lift the entire ecosystem, even if it's a little bit. We'd rather have a slight, like, improvement across the entire ecosystem, at least that we have control over or have access to, as opposed to a lot of influence over two kids, whatever it is, So our whole model was a bit different from the beginning, and I think that really kind of set us off in a different direction of how we operate in this space, and how people see us and what we do and how we do it, because we're a bit different in some ways. That was an important kind of differentiator from the beginning. And then since then, it's grown in lots of different great ways. I mean, we've become the largest girls development and women's development initiative in the country. I regularly work with LaLiga and some other partners on the largest youth girls league. I mean, there's roughly 500 to 600 girls impacted each year through a league we run that spans, 4 months or so, 4 or 5 months each weekend. So the amount of logistics and planning and league management that goes into that type of thing is immense. But that's, like I said, that's all part of building the ecosystem. And all of those clubs come from various areas of the community where they didn't even have a girls team before. So now they have a girls team, and they're playing in this awesome league, and it's growing. Like, people from all over the country want to be a part of it. So there's initiatives like that are really cool. We've since started our own Division II club, and this is all on the women's side. So now there's pathways for young players to come all the way up through and then sign a contract with Petrichor. And then from there, be seen on national team level, or exposure through our different networks. So, I mean, there's so many different layers to what this is. The amazing impact and the stories over the years, like, it's incredible. I'm so thankful and honored to be a part of it. It's also one of the hardest things I've done. Like, it's so hard to run something like this and to work in it. Like, it's really tough. It's a really hard environment. Like, you would think you'd get support from some of the biggest groups, but, like, sometimes the federation, often FIFA and things like this are some of our biggest headaches, unfortunately. So it's like the whole system is built in a way that, makes a few people rich, unfortunately, in some of these environments. But you can only control what you can control, and so we just do our best with what we do and who we are, and that's it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, really thinking about that, of like bringing the women's game. I think a lot of times, especially Americans, forget, because of the presence of the U.S. women's national team, it's just like, in the men's side, there's like the psychological thing, like, U.S. men's soccer in general, the boys' side, men's side is just so far behind the rest of the world, right? Is what it always is, the narrative. And then on the women's side, it's like, it's kind of a different sort of thing, a different animal in some respects. Not saying that there isn't growth and issues, and because there certainly is, but then to think of really spaces, towns, availability, access for girls and women to play the game, and then creating opportunities that have, like you said, to be able to go play or have a trial with the Division II team and the professional setup. All these kind of networks are in and around it with LaLiga and other things. Incredible opportunity building. I think you said something about capacity building organization. And I think that takes really generous hands and a lot of headaches and a lot of, courage to, like you said, even just lift it a little bit. Right. And you couldn't just build out. Obviously you had vision for it. You guys had great ideas and plans and strategies, but being patient, having conviction long enough to stay with it. Paul, how, what's kind of on the horizon now that you maybe never thought was really possible, now that you guys have been at it for a long time here? What's something that's like really exciting on the horizon for you guys with that?
Yeah, let's see. I mean, with Petrichor specifically, there's a couple of things. I think first, our Division II club, we lost in a playoff game to be promoted to First Division last year, which I was actually thankful for. To be honest, we weren't. I don't think we were ready to go Division I. So this year, I'm like scared in a good way that we're going to be promoted, and that's just so much more. That's a whole new headache in a good way, but that's something new and exciting. I think we can achieve a lot of the same goals in Division II, actually, but Division I's great, and it adds a lot of credibility for the club there as well. That's top professional. It's crazy thinking about that, but so that's exciting. I think the main thing for Petrichor at the moment is really just like closing the loop. Like we've done a lot of the dirty work. Like we've been doing this for a while now. We've put our time in. We've proven what we can do, why we do it, our motivations. Our reputation is really good in the country, and like I'm surprised we've even made it this long. Like usually you get shut down or something goes on. So like, not to say it couldn't happen any day, and it's also like it's a unstable area in a lot of ways. So it's like, I'm surprised we even lasted this long, but I think that's a testament to the quality and consistency. And and it's not just me. Like I'm one part of this bigger team of everyone else that is doing incredible work, much better than me at times, like that are grinding this out. Like, so don't think that this is like just me. Like we have a whole team that's like committed to this project and excellence. Anyway, as far as like closing the loop, I think we're close to some wider club partnerships where we can start sending players out consistently to to either academies or second division clubs or reserve teams or even first teams with professional partnerships around the world. That will then help kind of close the loop of, these kids come in as a part of a member academy of Petrichor, right? So their club comes in as a member. Some of their best players might come up through and sign for our Division II club, maybe Division I soon. And then with that contract held by Petrichor, we can then, share those player profiles around the world with our network. So the goal is to then kind of, close the loop with sending that player to France or Canada or the States or South America, or wherever the profile fits best, and where that player is cared for well. So I think that's probably the next exciting, scary, and big step. We're close though. Like our players are now, there's a handful that have been consistently on the national team that'll be turning 18 soon. So it's coming. And so part of that pressure, most of it's on us to make sure that we prepare the road before they need it. Because it would be so irresponsible to do all this work and not have the final product prepared. So a lot of what I've been doing the last few years is trying to stay ahead of this thing, and develop the partnerships, develop the inroads with some of these clubs and academies so that when the time is ready, it's already sorted. It's
Yeah.
that quote, like, what is it, like, build your network before you need it type of idea. Like, we're
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah. Yeah.
be a few steps ahead so we know what's going on, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen.
It's amazing. I love it. Every time I hear you talk about Petrichor, see a video you guys put out, LinkedIn post, whatever, it's inspiring stuff. And if you are somebody who's like trying to do this somewhere, I mean, Paulie and the team at Petrichor would be just such a great resource to kind of see their model, describe their model. It's not a perfect prescription, but I do think there are principles that you guys have led with and embodied that really would translate across culture. Paul, what is something that's exciting for you? What are some of the things that you're involved with in addition to Petrichor? What are some of those things that you've been developing in your kind of career portfolio these last couple of years? I know there's been some exciting opportunities. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, so with the mindset of some of our leadership or founders, or really, some of the Western leaders in Petrichor trying to kind of phase out when needed. Like, we're actively trying to take steps out of kind of any forward facing or leadership roles in some ways, so that Petrichor can be a sustainable club in Cameroon on its own. And I'll always be an advisor of some sort, I'm sure, and I'm still very involved right now. But like, in the future, from the beginning, we were very clear about this. Like, once we're not needed, like, we're not needed, and that's fine. Like, let's get out of here. Um, so with that mindset, I started my consultancy about 2 or 3 years ago, knowing that like I would need to phase into something else or have something else going on. I think it partially also started with like the experience I've gained from all of this.
Yeah.
I was starting to get more um, exposure around, I mean, our expertise in this space. I mean, it is what it is. Like, I've never been one to think I'm an expert in anything, and I still don't feel like I am. But like, when professional clubs or like top clubs in the States or Europe call you and ask you questions about a player or development system or something, I'm like, what's going on? Like, okay, there's something's happening here, like, so it really made me think into like, okay, how do I use that to create something, that lasted a bit longer, a bit more around it, and what did that look like? And that kind of morphed into my consulting business. So I officially started a consulting kind of wing to all this, and essentially, I do special projects for different clubs, federations, nonprofits, capital groups around the world, primarily in women's football, around the spaces of what we've been involved in. So projects based on social impact, community development, um, player development strategy, and a little bit of how all that gets wrapped up into like revenue. Like, how do you do this right in a way that drives revenue for a club? Because everyone needs revenue, and everyone wants to do the right thing with social impact, but only a few people are doing it really well in a way that it actually brings in revenue.
Yeah.
It's either a side thing or an afterthought instead of a forethought that's done well and can drive revenue. So a lot of my projects have been in that space, which is amazing. I love it. But I think, yeah, the more this grows, I'm trying to build that into a product, if you will. Like, okay, this is how
Yeah.
this works. This is the strategy. Instead of, because usually what happens, I'll go in and do an activation for a club. Like, I was working with this group, the Women's Cup. They host these incredible top level women's tournaments. So like Atletico Madrid, Juventus, KC Current, some USL club or USA clubs, and then some from South America recently. But alongside of these tournaments, doing activations in the community where we're connecting athletes to kids that would never have access to the game, and players like this. So bridging that gap, but in a way that can kind of lay out the next steps for the club if they want to do it. I'm not forcing them, but I'm like, look, like, you should do something with this and build around this and make it core to who you are. Some of them do, some of them don't, but it often leads into future, kind of projects. But yeah, I mean, that's I would say the biggest thing at the moment outside of Petrichor is, the consulting projects. Some of them are one-off, some of them are, 6 months, 3 months, a year, so it's a little bit of a challenge, like as I'm in the middle of one, like, okay, when is this ending? When do I start the next one? Who do I want to work with? So in the middle of that, there's also, I mean, it's a much larger thing, but we've also started a really exciting project. I have to probably be a little careful with how much I talk about it, but essentially it's like a scouting and analytics platform across Africa for the women's game, and it'll be a first to market. Like there's nothing that breaks into these markets like this yet. So we're in some really interesting kind of strategy talks and what the platform looks like on that side of it and how to share that with the world. So again, a lot of that started just with, we've been in this space so long, we know a lot of people now. So like we can call somebody in Liberia or Egypt or Kenya or Zambia and get instant quality, like vetted information on players that no one else that I know has that kind of reach, so really figuring out how to turn that into something that adds value back to the local clubs, but also can generate revenue. So yeah, there's a few kind of really interesting projects, and I'm not like a statistics or data guy necessarily, but running that project has been a stretch for me in a good way.
Yeah. Man, I think I think for all of our listeners too, I think it's just an encouragement of like, there are spaces, as old as football, soccer is, and there's so many different things going on. There's so many opportunities still within the game in ways that haven't been imagined yet. It's to resource and to provide bridges of opportunity and to provide another level of consistency and excellence across the board for various demographics within the game. Paul, what has been something on this development side, as you've watched on the women's side in particular, in Cameroon, what are some of these things that you're seeing as gaps as someone who still lives in America? What are some of these similarities or maybe some of these differences of the developmental approach in the game, as you've seen it in different contexts, as you're working with massive clubs all over the world as well, and working directly with them, learning from them, all of that. What are some of the similarities and what are some of the stark differences as you think about how youth development is approached within the game today?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a big question.
I know it's a beefy one. Yeah. That's a beefy one right there.
Yeah, that's a good one. Where to even really start? I mean, I think first of all, I think it depends where you're talking development. Are we talking what I've learned in the African development model and then how we've implemented that there? Or are we talking Europe, South America, the States, or just kind of in general? Because I think each one has its own, great things going on, but also unique challenges and problems. So some of them cross over, some of them don't. I mean, a few common ones I think are, at least I would say specific to the US market from what I've seen. And I'm sure someone might hear this and be offended. I don't know. I haven't worked in the States that much. I mean, and partially on purpose because most of the groups I've either done projects with or tried to, not all, but most, you can tell pretty quickly at the beginning they're short-sighted and they don't really get it, or if they do get it, they're not willing to make a change that affects their pocket,
Yeah.
And for me, that's where development stops. If it stops when you stop getting paid, you aren't developing anyone. You're developing your own bank account. So it's obviously everyone needs to, pay the bills, whatever, but from what I've seen in the US, and this is no surprise, but like the first thing, usually red flags I see or experience is lack of collaboration. Like everyone thinks they're doing their own thing and it's the best thing, and they're not willing to listen to anyone else. Like, and that goes all the way down from a rec community parent that's coaching a team that thinks he's Guardiola, or and it goes all the way up to like huge youth development clubs that are in like ECNL and MLS Next and all that stuff. And they think, oh, because we're so big, we know what we're doing better than everyone else.
Yeah.
And which clearly you've done some things right. Like that's great. I'm not saying you don't, but like the lack of collaboration I've seen between those types of clubs, I don't know if that's a Portland thing, a USA thing, but like I don't get it.